The holiday season is right around the corner, and if you're looking for some fun treats to bake, I have 4 that are sure to please anyone. My name is Sophie from Sophisticated Organization. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. In today's video, we're gonna be baking 4 different treats, and I'm actually gonna show you a way that you can freeze all of them. So if you're making a large batch and you're not getting together with a large crowd or all of your family this holiday season, don't worry, because you can freeze them either baked or unbaked, and I'm gonna show you how to do that as well. So if you're ready, let's jump right into the video. The first recipe that we're making today is a holiday classic. It is Gingerbread Men. So I'm gonna start by getting my stand mixer ready and adding 10 tablespoons of butter and whipping it around with a paddle attachment until it's nice and creamy looking. Then after I scrape down the sides of the bowl, I'm gonna add in 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar, followed by 2/3 of a cup of molasses.
We've been good, but we can last. Hurry Christmas, hurry now.
Next goes 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract, followed by 1 large egg. For the dry ingredients, I'm starting with 3½ cups of flour, 1 tablespoon of ground ginger, 1 tablespoon of ground cinnamon, ½ a teaspoon of ground allspice, and ½ a teaspoon of ground cloves. Next, I'm adding 1 teaspoon of baking soda and ½ a teaspoon of salt. Mixing it all together, and then we're gonna slowly add the dry ingredients to the wet mixture that's in the stand mixer.
Wake up with a smile, the feeling is right today. Magic in the air, 'cause something is waiting.
Once the mixture's done, it still should be pretty thick and sticky. You're going to divide it in half onto large pieces of plastic wrap and tightly wrap it together into a disc shape and stick it into the fridge for about 3 hours, or you can leave it there as long as 3 days.
See what's under the Christmas tree for you and me. Oh, little bad toys that cuddle and woo.
So this is the point that I'm actually going to choose to freeze one of the discs. So I'm going to stick 1 in the refrigerator and 1 in the freezer. There are 3 different ways to freeze these cookies. The first way that I'm doing is to freeze the cookie dough disc, and that freezes for up to 3 months. You just thaw it overnight in the refrigerator and then continue with the rest of the steps. So I'm gonna write those on the plastic wrap. Or you can freeze the cookies after they've been baked and undecorated, or baked and decorated, and that should last up to 3 months as well. After they've chilled, it's time for the fun part. So you're gonna wanna roll them out with some flour and bring out your cookie cutters. You don't have to use just Gingerbread Men, you can get creative. I have this fun holiday pack of different cookie cutters, so I'm gonna do a bunch and just kind of play around with them and decorate them with some frosting when I'm done.
White outside and the night is cold. Everyone's lighting candles in their homes. Yes, it's Christmas. It's a magic time. You can feel it in the air, that every child got their hearts filled up with joy. Yes, it's Christmas all around. Oh, snow is falling down, all the colored lights lighting up.
So at this point, your oven should be preheated to 350 degrees. You can use parchment-lined baking sheets or silicone baking mats like I use. They're great, they're reusable, dishwasher safe, so I love to use them when I'm baking cookies. So that's what I have right now. And you're just gonna bake them for about 9 to 10 minutes. If your cookie cutters are a little bit smaller, then you can do 8 minutes, so keep an eye on them. And you're gonna wanna make sure they're not too cooked. Once the cookies come out of the oven, cool them completely before you start to ice them, or else that icing is just going to completely melt. You can make a simple royal icing or a cookie icing, whatever you want, and like on top of your gingerbread cookies. I did a simple royal icing. You can easily just Google something. And I'm making some fun little designs here, keeping it really simple, and it does actually add a little bit of flavor. I added some vanilla extract and almond extract to mine, and I really like that. But you could just do vanilla extract or keep it as simple as you want.
Today, all snow is falling down, all the colored lights lighting up this town. And as I walk outside, hear the Christmas choir sing, Merry Christmas to you.
If at any point during this recipe I went too fast for you, I did put the ingredients on the screen, but I'll also have in the description box the actual link to these recipes, so you can head to the description box for any of these recipes and find everything there as well.
All snow is falling down, all the colored lights lighting up this town. And as I walk outside, hear the Christmas choir sing, Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to you.
Next up, we have peppermint Oreo balls, and these are so good. If you look at the ingredient list here, how could it not be good? You're starting with 36 Oreos into a food processor and adding in 8 ounces of cream cheese. So you're just going to blend that until it's fully combined, and I did need to kind of wait a little bit till that cream cheese moved around and caught up with everything. But it finally combined, and you're going to take it out with a small cookie scoop or spoon, and you should have about 48 1-inch balls with this recipe, but you can really just be kind of easygoing with this recipe. It honestly does not matter what size they are. So just make them whatever size cookie scoop you have or whatever is easiest for you. And after you have all of the balls formed, you're going to stick it into the freezer for 20 minutes so they get nice and hard.
And I will wait here by the candlelight, 'cause his love is all I need, and my love I can guarantee. So please Santa, bring back my love tonight.
After the balls have fully hardened, it's time to make that outer coating, and you're going to use 16 ounces of chocolate. I used vanilla flavored bark, which is really flavorful and great. If you don't have that, use white chocolate melting wafers or white chocolate chips. Doesn't really matter. And then I'm preparing the crushed candy canes. I'm adding in a little bit of sprinkles to bring out even more of a red color. So that will help make it pop against that chocolate. When you're melting the chocolate, if you're using the microwave, do about 30-second increments, keep mixing it, or use a double boiler. When the chocolate's fully melted, add half a teaspoon of peppermint extract and mix that together. Now it's time to dip the balls in that white chocolate, then roll them around in the crushed candy cane and sprinkle mixture, and let them sit, and they're ready to enjoy. This recipe you can get creative with. So if you don't like the taste of peppermint, you could put another flavoring into that white chocolate mixture, or you could just leave it as is. And then instead of rolling it into crushed candy canes, you'll see how I did add those red sprinkles. You could just dip it in that white chocolate and roll it in different colored sprinkles. You could do red and green so it looks like Christmas. You could do blue so it's kind of more of a wintry or a Hanukkah theme. You could even do some white sprinkles and make it look like a snowball, which I think would be really cute. So don't be afraid to get a little bit creative. I will also recommend once you dip it in the chocolate, it's probably best to let it sit for just a second so that chocolate hardens a tiny bit. When you stick it right into the mixture with the candy canes and sprinkles, it kind of turns into a little bit of a glob with the chocolate going everywhere. So let it sit and harden a tiny bit and then roll it around. For this recipe, if you want to freeze it, I would just freeze them when they're completely done as is, and then you can pull them out of the freezer and just let them sit for a little bit, and they're ready to eat, and they're delicious out of the freezer, especially when you do the peppermint version. The peppermint and the cold together is really an awesome combo. I think this next recipe was my favorite out of all 4 of them, and it's a salted caramel pretzel snickerdoodle. I love the salty sweet combo, so this one was number 1 in my book. You're gonna start with 1 stick of salted butter into a saucepan and cook it over medium heat for about 3 to 4 minutes until that butter begins to look brown. Mine did take a tiny bit longer than that, so just be patient with it. And then you're going to transfer it into your stand mixer. After that, you're going to add another stick of salted butter just at room temperature, followed by 3/4 of a cup brown sugar and a 1/4 cup of granulated sugar. After that's nice and mixed, you're going to add in 2 large eggs at room temperature and then 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Then for the dry mixture, we have 2.5 cups of flour, and I'm going to add in 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda and 1/2 teaspoon of salt and mix that up and add it into the stand mixer. I'm going to let that finish up mixing, and in the meantime, I'm going to chop up about 1.5 cups of chocolate covered caramels or chocolate chunks. The recipe actually recommended using these Dove caramel chocolates, and they tasted really great, so I went with what the recipe recommended, so I would use those as well.
But I don't care. Yeah. Oh, ain't ringing my bells no more.
With those all chopped in, you can take it off of the stand mixer, toss it into the cookie dough, and then just mix it up by hand so it doesn't get completely pulverized. Then you're going to roll the dough into about 1 tablespoon sized balls, roll them in a cinnamon sugar mixture, and then top them with a few pieces of crushed pretzels and just kind of press it into the dough, and you should be good.
It means nothing to me now. Be someone who would not complain to drive all night, all day to celebrate Christmas with me. 'Cause you're not here and I'm not there. I don't know what you want now, but
You're going to bake these cookies at a 350-degree oven for about 7 minutes. Then if they're looking nice and puffy and not flattening out enough, you can pull it out, tap it on the countertop a few times to let it flatten, and then bake it for another 1 to 3 minutes. You can tell when the cookies are starting to set on the edges, and that's kind of all you're looking for these ones to be done. For this recipe, for freezing instructions, I would just freeze the raw cookie dough balls ready to go. They're so easy to pop out of the freezer and onto a cookie sheet. So you're just going to thaw them overnight in the refrigerator and bake as directed. They'll stay in the freezer for about 3 months as well.
you ain't ringing my bells. No.
This is the best part of the cookie. This Maldon or Maldon, I have no idea how to say it, but this flaky sea salt is everything. I recently discovered it a couple of months ago, but putting it on top of these cookies, oh my gosh, does it make it. Last but certainly not least, we have hot chocolate cookies. I like marshmallows, I like chocolate, so this one's another winner for me. This recipe starts with 2 sticks of unsalted butter, 1 cup of granulated sugar, 2/3 of a cup of brown sugar. Mix that all together with 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract and 2 eggs. The dry ingredients for this one is 3 1/4 cups of flour. Into that, you're gonna add 4 ounces of hot chocolate mix, 1 1/4 teaspoons of salt, 1 1/4 teaspoons of baking soda, and add that all into your wet mixture that's in your stand mixer. When that dough is done, it's time to add in your chocolate chips. You can add in 1 cup of milk chocolate chips and 1 cup of semi-sweet chocolate chips and mix that in by hand, and then let it go into the refrigerator to set for about an hour. I was going to use my smaller cookie scoop, but I decided I want to try the big one. And you'll see for the second cookie sheet, I did decide to do smaller ones. So I kind of tested it, and I did like the larger cookies a little bit better. So you have a few different options when it comes to the marshmallows for these cookies. I've heard if you make these hot chocolate cookies, because there are lots of different recipes out there, if you use the marshmallow bites, I think they're called, they're very, very tiny. They're like the marshmallows that come in hot chocolate, that those work the best. I've also heard if you just mix in the mini marshmallows into your actual batter and bake it through the whole time, that they just completely disintegrate. So the best tip if you're using these mini marshmallows is to stick them in the freezer, bake your cookies for the majority of the time, pull them out before they have a few minutes left, and stick those frozen marshmallows into your like 3/4 baked cookies and let those marshmallows bake for that last portion. Well, this recipe didn't have specific freezing instructions. I decided to freeze the raw cookie dough balls as well. So I'm just gonna make sure I write the rest of the instructions for how to cook these. It's gonna be the same process as the other ones: thaw overnight in the fridge and then bake as normal. Thanks so much for watching today. As usual, if you like any of these recipes and you give them a try, make sure to tag me on Instagram so I can see what you made and how you enjoyed them. If you guys like this video, make sure to give it a big thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and until next time, I will see you guys later.